Hello, it is fantastic to be here today. My name is Trish Brownlee. I'm a professional artist and an arts educator with a background in K-12, arts integration, and STEAM. I have my Master's of Fine Arts degree, and I just recently moved from North Carolina to the greater Seattle area, where I am now working as an independent educator and teaching artists in schools and community settings. I'm here today to talk to you about student-generated evidence in assessment.
Assessment. Why do we do it? How do we really know our students have got it? How do we get our students engaged in their own learning all the way to the end and reflect on what they've learned? Can they explain it? Can they teach it to someone else? Do they have a voice in their own assessment? Let's explore these ideas. When I went looking for a definition of student-generated assessment, I found a lot of websites that suggest things like allowing students to create their own test questions, which is great, and I totally agree with, but that was not what I was looking for. I wanted to ditch the test completely. I wanted an assessment that was a continuation of the project, one which was truly authentic and that could be combined with arts integration, STEAM, and project-based learning approaches. I've put together this professional development program of strategies, which were pieced together from my experiences of working with my own students over 4 years in a new charter school, which opened in 2014 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. This school, at which I taught until 2018, was created specifically for arts integration in a K-8 setting. What I realized is that students are much more capable of mastering their own learning and are able to explain what they have learned than they are often given credit for. When it is done well, students love generating their own assessments, and they are excited to be part of the process. To quickly review, we have 3 main categories of assessment. Student-generated evidence works for formative and summative assessment. Formative assessments are used to provide feedback during the instructional process. They are great for helping you see your students' growth over a period of time. We also have summative assessment for the end of projects. They will work also for diagnostic assessment, as will be demonstrated later in the presentation. Education Closet has this great infographic on the types of assessments to help you. The asterisks show authentic assessment. But when it comes down to the actual process of assessing, how do you do that? How would you keep students engaged? How do you keep assessment authentic? Student-generated assessment often works well with project-based learning. Project-based learning is an educational approach rooted in inquiry. It is student-directed, requires collaboration, and it is all about the process. To quote an article from Education Closet, allowing students to explore arts topics through inquiry-based learning provides students with an opportunity to make their learning more authentic, to gain knowledge based in standards, and to develop 21st century learning skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, communication, and creativity. This infographic from Education Closet gives a great overview of how to know if you are working within project-based learning. However, I have found it easy to use these student-generated assessment strategies with many different types of assignments in addition to project-based learning. That being said, I encourage you to give project-based learning a try, as it will really give you the opportunity to get to the heart of authentic learning and apply these strategies for student-generated assessment that I'm going to share with you today. Authentic assessment means having the outcome in mind, but don't get attached to perfection. It's about the process, not the product. Did your students grow? Can they explain their growth? And are they excited to share it? Second, you don't have to assess everything. Be selective. Assess only the core component of each content area that you're teaching. Take it back to the standards. Remember, you plan a lesson first with the standards and next go to the assessment. We want to use the best tool for the job, including assessment. My intention today is to give you some new tools and a different perspective of best practices through a new lens. First, I always use rubrics with student-generated assessment and often have the students help make the rubrics. Depending on the grade level, as young as 2nd grade, students self-assess by grading their own rubrics. You can even do a verbal rubric with younger grades, allowing them to verbalize their own performance by using simple language. I create my rubrics using iRubric, but there are a number of other tools out there. What I really want to emphasize here is the student participation in creating and assessing rubrics as one type of student-generated assessment that I use regularly. At the end of the project, along with the rubric, I often include a reflection in the form of an artist statement that includes vocabulary from both content standards, such as visual art and science. Depending on the level of the student, we'll work together to come up with the vocabulary or guiding questions to help them write their artist statement. This comes at the end of the project. Let's take a look at some methods of student-generated assessment that work with the rubric and artist statement. The artist statement doesn't always have to be written. It can be verbal, which works out great as a tool for differentiation for struggling writers who still know their concepts and can explain them using the correct vocabulary. Student-generated assessment strategies offer opportunity for peer collaboration and gallery walks, for learning about constructive criticism and critique, for public speaking in informal presentations, and pop-up exhibitions of work where they've invited other classes and whoever else is walking down the hall to come into their room and see the art exhibit. They're creating, producing, presenting, and reflecting. I also find when work is going on an exhibit, a simple frame of construction paper will help students treat their own work with more respect. They perform better, up their own standards, raise their own bar. These strategies work with nearly every kind of arts integration project I've tried with my students. There are performance-based assessment opportunities where students can exhibit and present in larger settings, such as arts integration nights and community events. Here, students are acting as docents, presenting and explaining their work to their visitors, even hosting interactive stations. When students have to explain their work to someone else, you are able to assess them in a whole new way. These events are also great opportunities to educate the community about arts integration and STEAM, and really allow the students to be the voice for that, rather than the adults. This strategy is the entrepreneur, and it is a great assessment for a capstone. These students had to actually market their own products, run a real gallery, and here they are taking real credit cards for selling t-shirts and work that they created. They had to calculate their profit and loss margins, and then celebrated by spending their profit on a pizza party. This is a very real-world assessment and an applied concept. There is the teach it strategy. If your student can teach what they've learned to someone else, then you know they've got it. I find that students really enjoy it. Here, students were teaching what they had learned about photography, light, and science through a photo booth to visitors. And here, students were teaching what they had learned about animals and printmaking at an integration night. In both cases, visitors were able to take their own mini art or photographs home with them from the Teach It sessions as a souvenir. Having something to take home is always a big hit. The Teach It strategy can also be employed in small settings and for differentiation, allowing advanced students to teach others in small groups or partners. It's always great to see students teaching each other. Teach It is a great opportunity to learn leadership and collaboration. Older grades can team up with younger grades on concepts that start simple and become more complex as they grow, such as in this integration project. Here, students are teaching younger grades about push, pull, force, gravity, engineering simple machines, and color theory. Teach It can be used in every content, from math, music, dance, and more. The next strategy is student documentation, and it really embraces technology. Students love technology, and the ability to take photos, video, and audio clips has changed the way we assess. Students love it, and it doesn't even have to be the most recent technology. There are a number of sites and apps out there to help with student documentation. One of them is FlipClip, which is all about giving your students a voice and is a great tool for student documentation. I'll talk more about Seesaw in a bit, but it lets students upload audio, video, and more to their own portfolios and leave their own feedback, another awesome tool. Clips is an iOS app that lets students do quick video feedback and interviews, and they can put their own fun effects on them. This is great for diagnostic and formative assessment. iMovie is awesome for letting students make process videos, and that is our next strategy. It really takes student documentation to the next level. 6th through 8th grade students formed work groups for a social studies and visual art integration assignment. They teamed up to create murals with Habitat for Humanity in this fundraising community project. The purpose of the murals was to raise awareness on the issue of homelessness in their own communities. Students were required to document every step of the process, from planning and research, sketching, creating, and reflecting in a final interview. The students had to come up with their interview questions and video record them at the end of the project. I've used student documentation, the process video, and the interview strategy in a number of projects to great success.
So, Kristen, how do you feel about the work your other group members produced?
I think they did well. I think they struggled a little bit with teamwork, if you know what I mean, Isla. And, they both worked on that. But, they did really good on contributing ideas in the group and, doing experimenting and then no, don't do it. And then they do it and then it turns out really well. And I admit, I'm glad they did that. How do you feel? I want to glue this, that onto this, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to glue that onto this, like that.
Okay.
I find the interview strategy works fantastic in summative, formative, and diagnostic
So,
assessment.
Mia, what are we doing with this creature? He's the main character of a...
He's the main character of my book, but there's other people in there that they're going to be making main characters for their books. We're all making books, and then our teacher's going to take them home, check them, and then we're going to be drawing in our hard books. And
who are we being inspired by?
We're being inspired by Dr. Seuss.
Finally is the portfolio, which is a tried and true method for ongoing and culminative assessment. I require portfolios to be student managed and utilize technology to aid in project management. In this image, my students are documenting their work and uploading to a platform that works across multiple devices called Class Dojo. It connects students, teachers, parents, and administration. Students can upload and create their own portfolio, which can be seen by their parents, and everyone can leave feedback. It showcases their work and gives students their own voice. Another similar resource is Seesaw, which I briefly mentioned earlier. Seesaw is another platform for student engagement. Students can create a Seesaw portfolio, which connects students, teachers, and parents. Students can leave feedback for themselves via audio, video, drawing, and more. Another method of creating student-managed portfolios are student-safe websites. Students can publish their portfolios by turning them into websites and really tap into those 21st century learning skills at the same time. KidBlog is one example of student-safe publishing. It is not free, but they are specifically made for students and are very user-friendly. It does have a digital portfolio option. Weebly for Education is free, but it does limit the number of students attached to one teacher account. It has many templates to start from, and students can make really beautiful sites using Weebly. Both sites are very easy to use, are drag and drop, and are awesome ways to help facilitate student-managed portfolios via websites. These resources make feedback much easier and faster. They allow you to have student-led conferences where the student can explain what they have learned to their parents instead of the teacher or parent being surprised come conference time. These tools put the power of assessment into the students' hands in ways I'd never imagined, and they were so engaged and so excited. This is really about student ownership over assessment, and these tools and strategies give them exactly that. They give students a voice and empower them to own assessment in a way that is truly authentic. My hope is that these resources and strategies I've given you today have inspired you. My challenge to you is to try one of these assessment strategies in your classroom this year. It doesn't have to be big. Start small. Put a sign outside your room at the end of a project that says art exhibit or performance, and invite everyone to come in and check out your students' work. Student-generated assessment changed the way I teach. It changed the way I interacted with my students and the way they interacted in the classroom. It made me a better teacher. My students changed too. They were happier, more engaged. I wanted to come to school every day, and so did they. I encourage you to try this and see it for yourself. It won't go perfect at first. Remember, don't get attached to outcomes. It's about the process, not the product. And enjoy the experience, because at the end of the day, you should be having fun too. Remember, assessment equals celebration. I've put all these strategies together in a handout for you. If you would like to connect with me, this is my contact information, also on the handout. I'm located in the greater Seattle and East Side area. I'm a professional teaching artist and arts integration specialist. I'm available for artist in schools programs, training and professional development, consulting, and as a teaching artist in the classroom and other settings. Have fun celebrating assessment, and thank you so much for your time today.